Hey everybody, welcome back to Oddy's Airsoft. Today we're going to be reviewing my latest toy, my little baby, and that is the G&P Troy M7A1. I've always loved the Troy M7 as a CQB gun, and G&P make arguably the nicest version of it. I know King Arms do one as well, but this to me is very, very nice indeed. I love the way it's put together. G&P always make nice guns, and the fact that the internals are also superb really does finish off what is a very, very nice piece for me. If I was to say I was disappointed in anything at all, it's the fact that, yes, there is a Magpul MOE stock on it, but it would have been nice to have an MOE or a Myad grip and maybe an AFG. I know I'm going to be changing out this foregrip for an AFG in Dark Earth as soon as I can get one. But from what you see here, the only thing that is in stock is the Peckbox. I added that myself, but everything else, you know, stock, grip, foregrip, sights, everything else is stock. So as you can see, it's very much a CQB gun. Nice and short, nice and compact. I fitted an ASAP to it to make it easier to do transitions to both sides. I have had this out in both open field and CQB, and the performance really is superb. I thought it was going to suffer a little bit with maybe a lack of range or a lack of consistency at range when I was playing open field, but I didn't lose out at all. I certainly wasn't being outgunned by anybody. And at the office block when we went up there, the rate of fire of this thing certainly helped me get some kills that maybe I wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Really, really nice fast trigger response, and it shoots out the BBs at a fair old speed. Internally, the only changes I've made, I have put in a Magpul Black Python Teflon coated tight bore 603. It's a 229mm barrel, and I've also changed the hop for a Garter silicon clear. Just one of those things that we tend to do, whether it's going to be any better or not than the stock rubber. As I was changing the barrel anyway, I did it. And it certainly performs very nicely indeed. Nice trajectory on the BBs, and I have used it with a range of BB-8s, .2s, .23s, .25s, and they all perform very nicely indeed. Now it doesn't shoot as hard as maybe some of the longer open field guns. It shoots just over 300 FPS with .2s, but that's more than enough. Really, I mean, once you get up to the sort of 300 feet per second, you're not going to see a massive amount of improvement in range or anything like that. What's going to really set the difference there is the hop unit on the hop rubber itself. So as I say, just over 300 FPS with .2s. Because it's got the G&P M120 motor in it, it fires out the BBs at a nice rate, round about 21 BBs a second. Now the thing I had to really watch out for when I was playing open field games with this, because I was using mids, you go through the mids very, very fast indeed. So I really had to control my burst fire and make sure I was going to make use of every time I pulled the trigger, that the BBs were going to actually be doing something useful, not just firing into air. So all in all, love the gun, nice trades on it, very, very nicely built. I've always wanted a Troy M7, so you know, I was delighted when I finally got this. And certainly it's lived up to my expectations. Sometimes, as I say, when you meet your heroes, sometimes they can let you down, but this is absolutely superb. Love it. Won't be getting rid of it. Great CQB gun, and a great open outdoor gun as well, which I was pleasantly surprised at. So I don't think I'm going to be doing too many changes to it, but if I do, I'll come back and let you know how it's going. So that's my baby.
I have a couple of questions for you.
Go for it, Oddy.
One question being is, why the Peckbox? Now I have to say, not a fan of them, but that does look pretty shizzle.
That's a VSC Peck 15. Why? It looks good. Yes, I do have the torch and laser facility as well. I don't need to use a Peckbox for a battery box because I use stock tube LiPo. It looks good, and as I say, I have been out playing CQB, so I've been trying to test this versus, you know, a dedicated tack light. Because this is a combination unit, maybe it doesn't have the same lumens output as a dedicated tack light. And certainly the tack lights I've used, I've tested, the Element ones, are far superior in a very, very dark environment. But it does give me the nice little feature if I want the laser, if I want a little torch, if slightly gloomy, whatever. And a nice feature as well, you can't see it here, I don't have it fitted, but there is a little port in there where I can fit a pressure switch, mount it on a panel or somewhere on the body of the gun, which makes it easier to activate it as well. So primarily it's because it looks good, but it does give me the laser and torch facility as well.
I have another question. You mentioned your sling mount was a bit different. Now, I've seen this and I have to say I love these sling mounts. I don't have one on any of my guns, but I would like to get one. What is it called again?
Okay, this is the Magpul ASAP, ambidextrous sling attachment point. And basically it gives free access around 180 degrees. If any of you have watched the Magpul videos, it's basically to facilitate a fast weak side transition if you want to go from one side to the other. Most sling mounts you'll find are mounted on one side or other of the stock. So if it's mounted on the left side, if you're typically a righty, if it's mounted on the left side, when you do change over to left, it can be a bit cumbersome with the, you know, the sling sort of getting tangled up or whatever. But because this has full rotation around the stock, both sides, it makes it nice and easy. Yeah, it's a handy piece of kit. There are other bits and pieces out there. You don't have to buy the genuine Magpul one. This one happens to be the genuine Magpul article. But you can get cheaper versions that do exactly the same thing. You do have to be careful though what stock you put it onto. Right, this is a standard stock tube and it goes on no problem whatsoever. If you're putting on, let's say, my Top Tech T418 has the UBR stock on it, you cannot put the ASAP on the UBR stock. It just doesn't work. It physically won't fit, you won't get the same functionality out of it.
So CTR stock is probably one of the best stocks.
MOE, CTR, something like that. Anything that has a standard stock tube I think you should be pretty okay with. But the UBR has its own stock tube configuration. So that's why it doesn't really work with that particular stock. I think you'd also have problems with something like a PRS, which is largely a fixed stock. But most adjustable stocks I think you'd be pretty okay with.
Now, have you opened her up down to the gearbox to have a look at the gearbox?
Absolutely not. You know, I've only recently started opening up gearboxes to see how they're put together. Largely due to the recent series you did with Chris and MIA. And I am not going to be opening this bad boy until it is well out of warranty.
Right, because I was talking to Dave the Minder. Dave is a regular up at Red Barn, and Dave builds custom guns. You know that, let's face it, they're as good as anything that you could ever put together.
No, they're not as good as, they are the best.
Oh, well,
I've looked at them, they are the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, I would second that. I mean, Dave, I have a number of videos coming out with Dave featured in them as he talks about his different guns that he's custom built. One thing he does say about the G&P gearbox is, from memory, that there are a number of faults in them that do have to be changed out. Now, off the top of my head, I can't remember. I think one was something to do with the trigger or the trigger contacts. I'm not sure, but I'll come back to that one. But it's certainly something to bear in mind that maybe the gearbox itself could be looked at on the G&P range, because there is possibly a weak point that naturally occurs in them.
Maybe so.
But that's down the line, as Mark says. I mean, you know, one thing, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
If your gun is under warranty, you should never really be tinkering with it until it's out of the warranty, and then it's a free-for-all, unless you're having major problems with the gun. Now, one thing I will say, this must be the only industry where companies sell products where we, the purchaser, accept as faulty or shabby or badly built as standard, and that we, on buying, know that we're going to have to mod it to make it work properly or to get it to run effectively. It's unbelievable that the stuff that comes out of the factories and is shipped to all the airsoft stores is so poorly made in many cases, or so poorly put together. Probably not poorly made, but definitely poorly put together.
Well, you see, I think that comes back to the point that I've made on several of the videos that I've been involved with, Audie, that I tend to buy quality kit. Yeah, I've owned G&G, G&P. Anything I buy does tend to be quality, because yes, if they are mechanical devices, I do expect them to break at some stage. Not out of the box, but I do expect them to break at some stage. And in my view, buying quality AEGs does mean that they are going to last longer out of the box. They're going to be better built using better materials, so they are going to be more reliable and more consistent performers out of the box. Fair enough, if you're only going to pay 140 quid for an AEG, yeah, you expect to have to open it up and tinker with it. But when you're buying high end, I think you do get you get the finish, you get the materials, you get the build quality, you get the reliability and the performance consistency that is warranted by the high prices these guys command. So, you know, if it's VFC, G&G, G&P, I have absolutely no problem paying the prices for these guns, because I do believe they are better built. They are better guns from the ground up. Right, so that's it. That concludes our look at my new baby, the Troy M7A1. I hope to be using this long into the future. It's a great gun. As I say, don't be afraid to use this in outdoor scenarios, because it does work very, very well as an open field gun. But it was designed primarily as a CQB type gun, and it really does excel in that role, because it's nice and small, compact, nice and maneuverable, switching from side to side, and the rate of fire really does work in a CQB environment. So that's it from Money's Airsoft. Adios.